Alright traders, I am back again with another video. This video we want to look at the Santiment Bitcoin, okay? And we're going to look at some of these cryptocurrencies, but today we're just looking at this one right now because I like to be quiet when nothing's happening, and when there's something I like to get it out there. So there's nothing per se happening, but there's some things I want to show you and things that you could look for opportunities with any time you're trading Ichimoku. Alright, even no matter what asset you're trading, you're going to see the same things over and over no matter what asset you're trading. So trust me with that. I put so many videos out there with other assets trying to show that Ichimoku can still be traded with that asset. So what we're looking at today is a cryptocurrency, which is the Santiment Bitcoin, right? So when we look at this, there's not a lot of info for this thing, so not a lot of data for us to go by with this market. All right, so it starts back here, in July basically, so you don't have that much data. But when you look at the data, you could see what Ichimoku does and how it follows this asset, even though there's not that much. So let's go back here real quick. Where you're going to get your trading opportunities, guys, is most of the time you're going to get trading opportunities in these trends, and you want to get a trend to the upside, or if you're trading a short, you want to get it to the downside, but you want to look for the action at the Tenkan-sen or the Kijin-sen. And a strong trend, you're going to look for the action at the Tenkan-sen because it's not coming back to the Kijin-sen. All right, so you could look and see. I'm using the default settings. Look how many times we come back, boom, touch that Tenkan-sen right there, and get another opportunity to touch that Tenkan-sen. When you get that touch there, you have an opportunity to trade, and then you hit the Kijin-sen here. A little tiny trade, didn't go much past this level, then the market went higher. There's some other opportunities that you could look at, but we're just going to be focused on Tenkan-sen bounces and Kijin-sen bounces right now, because those are going to be some of the best trades for you to look at when you're trying to trade with Ichimoku on any asset. Okay, so when we look at this, I don't know what other traders trade, but I'm trying to tell you what I see and what I've been trading for quite a long time. So when I look to trade, I'm looking for bounces off the Tenkan-sen in a strong trend, and if the market is not very strong, it'll pull back to Kijin-sen. Kijin-sen is your area of equilibrium anyway, so the market's going to pull back to that point eventually. The market doesn't want to be out of equilibrium forever, because then you don't have equal buyers and sellers in the market. But you could see the bounce on Kijin-sen here, the bounce here, and then we don't get any more Kijin-sen bounces because the trend starts getting pretty strong here, right? So then you get a bounce on Tenkan-sen here, and then the market starts taking off. You get a nice setup here on Tenkan-sen bounce right there, and then you have some bounces that are pretty hard to judge and trade, so you'd have to really pay attention to those. So right now what I'm doing is my mouse has died, right? So I'm trying to stall you guys until I change the battery in my mouse. Alright, so that's what I'm doing, and that's why I'm just rambling at the mouth saying nothing at all. But I have now put the battery in the mouse, and voila, we are working. Look at that. Alright, so you could see how the market pulled back right to that Tenkan-sen level. Alright, and then you had a trade opportunity, because what I look for is a level, and it could be any level. There's so many levels that I trade, but the main levels are your Tenkan-sen, Kijin-sen, and then one of my other major levels that I love to trade. And then you have bounces on Tenkan-sen, and the market continues. And a nice, very strong trend, you won't see the market close inside Tenkan-sen, Kijin-sen zone. This is your Tenkan-sen, Kijin-sen zone. All right, so inside that zone, let me mark that zone for you. Let me put an X in that zone so you see it. See that zone right there? That's what you got, a TK zone. And inside that zone, sometime the market will pull back into that zone, but long as it doesn't go below that zone, we're good. We could look for the market to come back to the upside, and that's what you'll start looking for trades. Now you could trade it a bunch of ways once you get inside the TK zone, but I'm not going to talk about how to trade that right now. I'm just want to talk about focusing how to trade these bounces here. So I'm going to mark the bounces and let you see exactly. We bounced back here off of Kijin-sen, bounced back here. You had a nice rejection there. You had a little bounce here. This would have been hard to trade probably, based off of the market and the move, but there's another level I would have looked at. I wouldn't have taken a Tinkinson bounce there. Then here's a great opportunity here right on the Tinkinson. You could have got this one here, and then some of these are probably hard to trade. This is a nice little indecision candle, and then you probably see this little inverted hammer here, and then the market now you want to wait to see if it comes back to it again and we get another chance to stay in the move to the upside. But I don't really love the upside move that much right now. I think we may see some downside a little bit, and the reason being is because if we look at this thing real good and I look at divergence with the ultimate oscillator, you could see my divergence here. Okay, so look at that going to the downside, and look at this still going to the upside. So it's probably going to get weak and flatten out a little bit. You may see it start to range inside that area. So it may move back up to this peak here. Yeah, you may get a bounce off of there, and then it peaks up to that point again, but then you'll probably see it eventually drop, and then you may get a chance again later. But that's what I'm looking at now, and this asset is so fresh. I mean, not that much data, but you could still see, why does it follow that Ichimoku? Well, because there's settings that make it follow that level. The Ichimoku is just following based off of these settings. All right, so I want to look at some settings and show you the differences with settings really quickly. And I'm not trying to demise anybody else's trading strategy or style. If someone's using a different setting, maybe they're not using the same setup that I'm using. So the setting may be good for the setup that they're using. But for the setup that I'm using, I prefer to stay with this default. So maybe if I was looking at something different, I mean, based on the Tinkinson and Kijinson bounces, I love to stay with the default settings, and you can see how the market follows it. And other than that, if you were trading something else, then maybe you want to trade with different settings. If you're trying to adjust the volatility of the market by changing the settings, you're not going to adjust the volatility of the market. You can't account for that way. You want to look at a higher time frame to make the market not appear to be moving as fast with the because it's going to be much faster with a lower time frame. All right, and then it seems more volatile, but it's not really more volatile. It's still the same, but you can slow it down basically by looking at a larger time frame instead of looking at the 15-minute time frame, which you better be a great trader to trade the 15-minute time frame in a very volatile market. All right, then you want to look at a higher time frame like the 4-hour to the daily. All right, but if you're trading a 15-minute in a volatile market, hopefully you're doing well, because you're probably going to get whipped out of trades a lot. All right, so looking at this, I'm going to change these settings. So I keep hearing that everyone keeps asking me, why don't I trade with the 20, 60, 120, and 30 settings? I don't know why people ask me that when they already know that I trade with this default settings and there's no reason for me to change it. But I'm going to show you something. So let's first look at, if I keep this setting, so here's where the TK crossover happened, right there for the default settings. And then you could see this bounce here, this bounce here. Let's mark the bounces that we have. We'll mark those in green because those are going to be our trade opportunities. So we want to format that and mark them in green. So I'll be generous. I won't show every single trade because we're never going to catch every single trade, right? So I'm going to mark the ones that we more than likely would catch. So remember, these green lines are bounces off of Tinkinson, the default levels, where we're looking at getting into trades. And there's a possibility to catch some of these trades. This is what you want to look at. Now this we're definitely catching this. And then I'm going to be generous and say we're not catching any of these. There is one that I probably would really catch, but let's just mark that. All right. And I don't want to hear that, basically you're looking at hindsight. I show you trades foresight also. Okay. So I can't show you everything while it's happening. Sometimes there's not things that I can't show you that are not at the moment. But this is what I want to show you with these settings. So these are default settings and these are trade opportunities. And this is the TK crossover in the red. We want to get that crossover because that's what we're following. So we're going to change these settings. All right, we're going to change them to what other traders say we should change them to. And again, I'm not trying to demise anyone else's trading. I'm just trying to show why I trade these settings. And then if your setup is different, you probably will trade the different settings. But for the setups that I'm talking about, I'm showing you why it's best. Alright, so look at, we have our crossover here. This is where our first crossover happened on my default settings, but we didn't get the crossover on this setting till way up here. We both caught this bounce right here, but then these bounces didn't really come back. Alright, so and this one didn't come back at all. This one was definitely on line with the other default, and then you never even get an opportunity here, so you would not really know where to get your opportunities because you want to have a level where you're looking to get into the trade. If you change these settings to something else, you're not going to get the settings that I'm getting. Now look how far away your cloud is, way up here. Alright, so way up here it has to account for that way up here. You're going to be flatter. I mean, the reason we catch these is because the time settings for we based it off 52, and this is only going 60, so it's not that much of a difference with your Kijinsen. But you're talking about 9 for your Tenkan-sen, and you're talking about 20 with the chain setting, so that's almost, you're more than double it. Alright, so you're moving farther away, and then your crossover is later. Alright, so this isn't going to help me account for this volatility here at all. Not at all. Alright, so that's not what I wanted to do. I want to just basically trade the bounces off of these levels. So in order for me to catch those, I have to go back to this setting, back to the normal. Alright. So there we go, back to our normal settings, and then you can see back to where the market hits that level again, and it likes to stay above that level. So if you can't catch these trades without hitting that level, then you're missing the opportunities. Alright, let's take these off, look at this really quickly. So your setup and your opportunities lie bouncing off of these Tenkan-sen and Kijin-sen. Remember, in a strong trend, you're coming back to Tenkan-sen, and rarely will you come all the way back sometime. So you have to wait for those setups, and you see the bounce. Rarely will you come all the way through Tenkan-sen and come into the TK zone on a strong trending market. All right, but with this pair again, like I said, so watch out for this top here. So even if you do get an opportunity, as I said, so what you're going to look for right now currently is you got a little indecision here, and these candles have been kind of small lately, and there's some volatility because you see the long wicks on these couple candles. All right, but once the market gets to this level here, if we could get a nice price action setup, so that's what we look for, is this price action setup. So you could have a bullish engulfing, 3 inside out, morning star or something. You're going to look for it at this level to get into your trade. Same thing here, you're going to look for this to pull back to this level. I think this may be the top for us, and if it is, it's because we see the divergence here. So that may be the top. We may get a bounce here again, and we could get to the top again, but we may have trouble getting through that top. So we'll watch and see. So currently no true trade setup, but you look for the setups that I'm trying to show you. So wait to see if price can get closer to this level. I like to see it come right on my level with an indecision. So this is the things where you come indecision, inverted hammer here. This one was inside the TK zone with a break. You had an inverted hammer here and then a break, and then you could go 3 inside out. All right. Different types of trades. Big rejection level here. Boom. Box this one in. You do a box style trade here. You just look at the tweezer bottom, straight flat top, and then trade. So there's opportunities to trade here based off of looking at this. Okay, so now that's what you're going to look for, and hopefully you understand why I'm using the settings that I do. Um, like I said, I don't like to just ramble on and talk about nothing when there is nothing. So I'm going to end this session. I'm going to look through the markets really good, and whenever I see some things, I'm going to post them out for you. So hope you're enjoying this stuff, and until next time, have a great one. God bless.